The secret of millionaires and billionaires that I've learned the hard way, and that quite frankly almost drove me crazy because it seemed almost impossible. Game changer. Hello everyone. I'm gonna tell you my personal story of what actually changed my life and what was that moment in my path that actually has completely shifted the trajectory of my future. And it might sound very complicated, or it might sound very simple. Well, you'll be the judge. Let me know down in the comments. Maybe you've paid attention, maybe you've noticed some kids out there in your childhood, for example, that somehow, were from rich families and they somehow are doing well today. Maybe some of them are sniffing cocaine or not doing anything great. Who knows? But overall, you see that the likelihood of someone from a wealthy family to do well is much higher. And a lot of you are going to say, it's because they have financial resources and, they've got connections and all that. And you would be correct. Certainly it does have an effect. But there is one simple thing. In wealthy families, they're wealthy most of the time for a good reason, and they have, these kids have parents that have gone through the same path, and they actually guide them. They actually steer them away from stupid stuff and actually point them in the direction of the correct actions. So, me personally, for example, I never had rich parents. If you've been following me for some time, then you'll know that my father left me when I was 2 years old with my mother that didn't have any education. It was in Eastern Europe. And then I migrated to the United States later on, but nonetheless, the upbringing wasn't very great. And here on the screen, I'll put a picture of me, yes, that's me, with my mother, and a pot in which she was actually warming up baby food using a candle for me because my father donated everything to a church. He got brainwashed by a religious cult, and he donated the house which we lived in, and they didn't pay the utilities, so they disconnected gas and everything else. So it was not great, it was not fun. So I know what it's like, and a lot of you would say that this type of a person does not have any opportunities in life. When I was growing up and I was upstate New York, and I kind of saw a little bit of the good life, how people live, that they have nice houses, they somehow pay mortgages, they can afford nice cars even if they are leases. And I was like, okay, there's got to be something that people do right in a way that, promotes good life and something that is out of the scope of my reality. But at the same time, I didn't really understand what are those steps to take to go forward. And what I did already understand at that age was that the world is evolving really fast, and there is no time to be lagging behind technology, behind medicine, behind spirituality, even as deep as that, and behind tech, and etc., etc. So, and especially blockchain, crypto, investments, the markets, everything is evolving, even in the current day, at such a rate. Like, look at AI, it's scary at this point. Cybernetics, or any science, like modern science for that matter. So if you think about this, any person that is basically starting from scratch, from zero, that doesn't have anything, would normally see it as something that is impossible to conquer. Because if you want to be in the 1%, you have to be the best. How can you be the best? By what? Reading books and learning and watching videos, or what are you going to do? What are exactly those steps to break out? So my personal story is, I'm going to just tell you what happened in my life in a very quick way, and I'm going to summarize it to the best of my ability, and then I hope that you will be able to draw some certain conclusions for yourself, and hopefully it's going to help you to change your game. So when I was living upstate, as I've already mentioned in one of my previous videos, I was working as a person who was speculating on certain items such as iPhones and even very cheap used cars. My initial budget was like $1,000. So, and I ended up making about $5,000 to $8,000 a month on just speculation. But again, in the US it's still possible. In some other countries it might not be possible. But it was my initial capital. And then I understood very quickly that this is not exactly scalable. There is just only one me. I'm upstate New York. There is only that many people who want to sell their iPhone below fair market value, and etc. So I didn't know what is that next step to scale myself further. But what I've learned was that if you are a type of person who is a risk taker, who understands that in order for you to actually achieve something that is different of your current reality, you need to step out of that current reality of yours and put yourself in a very uncomfortable position, which is going to motivate you to keep pushing and persevering through the most difficult times in your life. And the only way how you can do it is through somebody else's experience. There is a reason why in the beginning of the video I mentioned how fast the world is developing, and just on your own, going through all the mistakes and doing all the stuff, from zero is going to take you decades. That's why people get stuck in a rat race. That's why they get stuck in a system. They're just too scared to try anything new. And if they do, they try it once, and then if they fail, and most likely they will because they ain't got no experience. So sometimes you got to try for at least 10 times for yourself to accumulate enough experience to actually make anything of yourself. But there is a way how you can actually speed this up. And it's people. And I've said so many times before that the most precious asset in the world isn't watches or cars or stocks or real estate or Bitcoin for that matter. It is people in your network. And you can start building it from day one, even at a slow pace at your own level, and do it step by step. For example, in my case, I was always a risk taker. And I thought that if I ever see an opportunity, even the smallest one or the biggest one, I will take it no matter the cost. And just to put it in perspective, you can see I'll put some pictures of myself here, me living upstate New York in my life. I'm a very simple guy. I don't come from a rich background. But that one time, I've made so many mistakes. I've tried so many things. I've lost so much money here and there. It was all just hit and miss, constant, but I never gave up. I just kept going. And one day, there was a person who came into my life through my mother, actually, and we somehow connected so well, and it turned out that he was in private equity and also asset management and personal retail trading on the financial markets. It wasn't crypto back then. It was about, 10 years ago now. When I was 20 years old, I was still at school and in a university at that point, and I didn't know shit. I couldn't tell a difference between a dick and a finger. So, when it comes to business or anything serious for that matter in life in general. So, and this person had all the attributes of what I wanted. Expensive watches, cars, business class and first class trips, $1,000 dinners, and all this blah 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 kind of stuff. So when he told me, Thomas, I'm not going to give you any money, which, to be honest, it would have been easier to just pay him if I had any money, enough to pay him for his time. He's like, if you want to learn finance, which you normally cannot learn anywhere in the university, you can learn statistics or economics, but you're not going to really learn the real finance, how the money is made. And the guy was like 50 years old, so at the time. And he said, if you're interested, the price is different. You give up on your entire life in the United States. You give up on your friends and your girlfriends, on your education that you've been building for the last, so many years. And you move to Switzerland together with me, and I will show you the ropes. You will simply become my protege, and you will see how the money works, and I will just show you how it is. Maybe it will work, maybe it will not work. And right now, looking retrospectively, it's an easy decision. But at the time, and most of you would probably not take that risk because you've been building your life for so long, you've put in so much effort, and you've already done something. Me, as a teenager, I was already making $50,000 to $100,000 a year from speculation, buying and selling stuff. So it was not a bad life in general for that young kid who came from nothing. But I was like, okay, you know what? It's a big risk, but I'm going to give up on the entire thing, and I will say yes to the door that is opening that at least seems, like the gateway to the life that I've always wanted and my next step up, because I felt like I was stagnating. So I said yes. I gave up on my entire life in the United States, and I moved back to Europe. Because remember, I was born in Eastern Europe. And then I spent 6 months learning from the guy, and the only money that I had left was my savings, because I've also spending a lot of the money on stupid stuff because I was young, and I even bought myself an old Porsche for $15,000. A picture somewhere here on the screen, and I was very proud of it, but it was a piece of garbage even back then, so many years ago. And so I spent a lot of money on stupid stuff, so I didn't have that very much money left. And most of all, I had to sacrifice my existing income stream that most of you would probably never sacrifice, because 50 to 100,000 being self-employed kinda is great enough. You would be comfortable and screw taking any more risks. But I was like, you know what? If I want to be making $1 million a year instead of 100,000, I got to do something different. So I quit everything. Friends, girlfriends, family stuff that we had. I've quit on my education, on my business that I've built as a teenager. And I just flew to Switzerland, where I've spent 6 months. And it wasn't really that easy of a journey either. It was very, very difficult. But the point was that this is how I got into finance, which led me to currently 10 years down the road. I've made a lot of money in personal investments, in trading, which was very volatile and very complicated, but nonetheless. I've subsequently opened the doors to social media. That's why you're watching me right now. I've built, at least in my opinion, massive wealth. And currently I have about 11 income sources that all started stemming out of the financial industry. So if it wasn't for that one yes, for one risk, I wouldn't have Evadex right now. I wouldn't have my hedge fund right now. I wouldn't have 3 million followers in social media. You wouldn't be listening to me. I'd probably be a miserable lawyer because I was aspiring to become a lawyer, which was a bad idea anyway, and I didn't really enjoy it. It's just something that my mother said that lawyers make good money, which was a mistake. And I would have been leading this life because and just one word, one yes, one meeting, one instance always separates you from a completely different path. So for that reason, guys, believe in yourself, trust your gut, and say yes to reasonable opportunities that you see at least some kind of proof of in front of your face. And one of those opportunities is currently popping up on your screen. This is a video that I've done recently on the best strategy for 2025 as to how to build yourself up from absolute ground zero, and the exact steps I'd take personally to, if I were to, for example, lose everything, to build myself back up in every single sense of this word. Check it out. Game changer, and I'll see you next video.